I swear to God, that's what Randy Brown did to Muslim Salikhov. Welcome into Tapping Vegas, brought to you by Better and Green. And today we're breaking down UFC Denver, Namajunas versus Cortez. Bobby, another winning week. We're really starting to rack up the wins versus Vegas now.
Yeah, so no event last week, but the week before was the last UFC where we went up 2.4 units for a total of 12.5 positive overall for the year.
Absolutely, man. Getting into the card, why don't you take this first fight away?
Yeah, we're going to be starting off with Abdul, Razak, Alhassan versus Cody, Brundage. This is a tough fight to predict. Pretty much every fight we're covering is going to be very difficult to analyze. It could go either way on most of these fights very easily. So let's just dive right in. Abdul Razak Alhassan, not exactly the world beater that he was touted to be a few years ago. Known for his one-punch knockout power, basically like a little mini Francis Ngannou of the middleweight division was kind of how everybody was looking at him. False accusations derailed his career, but nonetheless, not really a fan of Abdul Razak Alhassan. I'm just going to say that right now. Even though the allegations were false, just in general, the circumstances still kind of indicated that maybe he was doing some extramarital curricular activities, if you catch my drift. Anyway, regardless of that, getting down to the nitty-gritty of this, he's still a shit fighter no matter how you see it, whether he's guilty, innocent, or anything in between. A turd's still a turd. Dude has absolutely nothing if he can't knock you out. His nickname's Judo Thunder. I don't know who the fuck came up with that besides some dumbass that fucking first trained him back when maybe he used judo, because I've never seen him use judo except get judo used on him. He constantly gets taken down up against the fence, in the middle, pretty much however you want to have your way with him. He's like a little Thai street hooker, and you can just pretty much impose your will and dominate him. And yeah, that's pretty much it. He just has one punch knockout power. If you can't knock him out, then if he can't knock you out, you can knock him out like Joe Pfeiffer did. But he managed to recover, and it ended up being a sub because, once again, his grappling's ass. Just all around, just an ass fighter, really. Cody Brundage, also, honestly, an ass fighter. This is turd sandwich versus turd sandwich. But Cody Brundage, at least, while I'm hesitant, and once again, they're both so terrible, it's like, fuck, how do you determine which one's going to be better? These are the things that make me lean towards Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage is pretty good at pressuring, which is kind of what you need to do to Abdul Razak. You need to immediately kind of like tactfully set up your takedown attempts on him, push him to the fence, kind of like Munir Laziz, I believe it was able to do to Alhassan. Get him backed up against the fence. That makes your takedowns easier. That makes your clinch attempts easier. All that easy takedown attempts based off backing him up. Get him, thinking, get him overwhelmed, pressure him. He's susceptible to that. Cody Brundage seems to be decent at doing that. Throughout pretty much all of his fights, he is at least a good pressure fighter. I really think Bo Nickel was just toying with him, but he did showcase some good defensive grappling against somebody even as great as Bo Nickel. I don't think Razak Alhassan's going to be offensively grappling with him, but that just proves still overall Cody Brundage has a pretty good grappling IQ and acumen to help impose his will on Razak Alhassan. And I think that's probably going to be the key to victory for him here. While Cody Brundage does actually have some pretty good hands in terms of his power, I don't think he's going to be able to pull off like a Chaos Williams and knock out Razak Alhassan. So as long as Cody Brundage plays it safe, yet, comes forward responsibly, sets up his shots pretty well, I think this should be a pretty good, easy win for Cody Brundage, and hopefully the last we see of Razak Alhassan, who is so fucking overrated still to this day. In his last 7 fights, he's won 2, lost 5. He's 38 years old. He lost a lot of his prime to those allegations, and that's very fucking sad, but I'm over here crying crocodile tears. Just get the fuck out of the UFC and go to bare knuckle or something where you're better suited. Cody Brundage, you're on borrowed time too, so don't think I'm a fan. What do you got, Ben?
Starting off, man. Starting off. But
you're still on that bullshit with the one punch KO.
The thing is, I don't like either of these guys. That's the bad part. And Vegas, the lines in Vegas are the only thing that swayed me because, I mean, both of them, they can kind of get the knockout. I think Abdul, Razak, Alhassan really can get the knockout. He swings wide, which is a detriment to him too, because when you're swinging wide, it's taking more time. They get more reaction time, the person that the punch is going towards. Alhassan can stuff the takedowns. I don't know about Cody Brundage. He just hasn't showed me that he does enough. So even if this does go to a decision, I don't know if he's going to have the volume to win. I think he has to take him down and control that control time. Right now, looking at the money, it's 54% of bets are on Alhassan. So it's almost 50-50, but he's getting 69% of the money. So I think some sharp bettors out there are seeing something. I think I'd have to go with Alhassan just for that reason alone.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Brundage money line at plus 142 right now. Abdul Razak Alhassan's minus 170. Once again, can't disagree. Cut it short. Not much I can disagree with, but I don't like either one either, so I'm just going to go with the underdog just to try to get a plus unit on this. I could easily see it going either way. I hope for a double knockout. They just both knock each other the fuck out and they both lose, but Brundage money line for me.
I like it, man. I like it. I'm not going to – I can't say anything bad about it. Taking the plus money in a fight like this, never a bad idea. Look at the next fight. We got Julian Erosa versus Christian Rodriguez. Julian Erosa, when I was watching his tape, he's got low hands. He's a hesitant fighter. He wants to stand the entire time. Julian Erosa is not a very he's not skilled in a lot of aspects of MMA. Rodriguez, though, beat Raul Rosas Jr., and I think that is a huge win. Like, as we've seen more and more Raul, he has really impressed me. I think that he's an outstanding fighter, and the fact that Rodriguez was able to beat him, and the fact that Rodriguez has a sub game and he can maintain that top position when he takes you down, he can keep you there. I think if Rosa gets taken down, I don't think he's getting back up. So I'm going to take Rodriguez right now. He's seen 87% of the bets, 94% of the money. I hate that. This is super, super public. I believe, I think that's the actually most public bet on this card. At least the biggest money percentage, but I think I'll have to go Christian Rodriguez. It's minus 205 right now, is what I have it at. So it's at that point, I think anything around the 200s, I'm going to stay there because it could be a sub. He could get a volume knockout, and I could see this going to decision too. So just play it safe. Get the minus 205. It's hard to swallow, but I'd rather come out with money than not. What do you think, Bobby?
So you're just sticking to the money line for Rodriguez on this one?
I'm just sticking with the money line.
Yeah, I can't really argue too much with that. I was going to try to say maybe put money on the KO TKO because that's predominantly how Erosa has lost in his UFC tenure. Because, literally every loss has come by KO or decision, but the vast majority have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 KOs, only lost 1 decision. No sub losses. Few sub wins, actually, but no sub losses. I'm not going to disagree too much with you on this. Fuck it. Just play it safe and take the money line. I do think Rodriguez is going to win. I was kind of seesawing back and forth because I am an Erosa guy. I do like him. I am a fan, but I just don't think he's got momentum on his side. He doesn't have time on his side. He's only 34, but he's got a lot of miles, bounced around a lot since he was on the Ultimate Fighter and everything. And then, Contender Series, he came back. Like, the guy's had a very long career for as young as he is between the Ultimate Fighter and Contender Series and getting cut, coming back to the UFC. And, unfortunately, he's got some great wins and some great names on his resume. But, this is just a classic story, I feel like, of Christian Rodriguez. It's kind of like the, surging contender ready to put the grizzled old vet kind of out to pasture type thing, unfortunately.
I agree, man. I agree. And, one last thing, too, with Rodriguez is just – you're looking at that age difference too. Rodriguez is just sitting there at 26, so he's just so much younger as well.
Yeah. It's like I said, Julian's not old, but it's the miles. It's the miles that he has. He's only 34, but like I said, 29 fights, 11 losses, and when, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of your 6 UFC losses, 7 actually counting his first run, 7 fucking stoppages by KO that you've experienced. That's your chin doesn't get better with time.
No. No, it doesn't. And the thing I think I dislike about this card the most is that I think Vegas got a lot of these right. And every once in a while, we could sniff at these underdogs. Unfortunately, I think Vegas did very well on this card, but we're just going to have to keep going with what they gave us. So, Bobby, why don't you take the next fight?
Yeah, so the next fight we have coming up, we have Gabriel Bonfim versus Ange. Ange, we know from his most recent fight with Brian Battle, claims he was eye poked, but immediately wanted to fight after the no contest was called. A little bit suspicious, obviously, to everyone watching that the fight's called because you say you can't see, but after the fight you want to suddenly fight. Okay, man. Ange said nothing really inspiring about this guy. He was getting pieced up the whole fight by Brian Battle, which is why I think he was okay with saying that he couldn't see, having a no contest, so that he didn't get finished. I don't like to say that about fighters, and I can hear all you fuckers whining already about, oh, blah, 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 blah. Why are you saying that the fighter quit type thing? This is one of those very rare instances that 0.00000.1% that I really think Ange just didn't want to keep getting his ass kicked. So, yeah, just nothing really, inspiring. Like I said, he's a plodding kind of heavy striker who's not very good at striking. Haven't really seen much in the grappling department. Gabriel Bonfim, another one of those guys, him and his brother, I think his brother's Israel Bonfim, something along those lines. Just 2 really hot prospects in their division. And Gabriel Bonfim is pretty much on a tear right now. He only has 1 loss, and he's got good striking. He's got power in his hands. He's got pretty good grappling. Just a very good all-around, well-rounded guy. Lost last November to Nicholas Dalby. That's where that 1 loss comes from, round 2. Clinch knee to ground punch loss. I was a little weary of that, but but after seeing how Fakhretdinov struggled with Dalby but still won, like we called on this show that Fakhretdinov would win, excuse me, I'm not really too concerned because Dalby's a tough fight for anybody. He is a very vicious guy who is very well-rounded himself, and he will always make every fight with him pretty much a long, drawn-out affair. He was the first guy to challenge Darren Till when he looked unstoppable, took him to a draw, So no shame in that. Beating Trevin Giles by guillotine choke. Munir Laziz, the guy that we just talked about with Abdul Razak, mounted guillotine, beat him, Von Flu choke. Like, he's getting crazy subs, in the UFC that just you really should not be able to get on guys at this level and everything. Like, how many times do we actually see a guillotine choke succeed in the UFC? Shout out Dustin Poirier. Like, come on now. That's ridiculous. It's kind of very hard to actually pull that off in the UFC against these competitors and not just have it result in basically you being on bottom, stuck playing guard while getting, your shit pushed in, basically. So, yeah, a lot of sub wins, but like I said, don't let that distract you from the fact he does have very serviceable striking with, some good power in his hands, very good boxing, some good leg kicks, things of that nature. Him and his brother probably train together, I'm sure, spar each other. They have similar styles like the Diaz brothers type thing, just with their own slight little different variations of it. So, yeah, Bonfim, unfortunately, I'm taking him, but unfortunately the odds are not going to be that great on him because everybody else is kind of seeing it how I'm seeing it, with Lusa just not posing a danger to him. So, yeah, he's probably the heaviest on this card, minus 340 for Bonfim, plus 270 for Lusa. Unfortunately, like I said, I can't disagree, and you're not even getting anything crazy on the props. Decision for Bonfim, plus 275, sub, plus 120. KO, TKO plus 400. I'll just take money line. If he's going to win, yeah, it's probably going to be by a sub. But knowing my fucking luck, I'll say, sub Bonfim, and then, he'll get the KO, TKO for the first time in his UFC career because Luce is very hittable. and has it's not the worst defense I've ever seen, but let's just say it's not good. It's just definitely not good defense. Plus, actually, I'll give him credit. He's never been knocked out before in his pro career. His 3 losses have all come by decision. Even Jack Della, who has exceptional striking and great power in his hands and the ability to mix it up, couldn't even knock him out. So I don't think Bonfil's going to be able to either, because Jack Della is also a way bigger guy, taller, like I said, more power, all that. So I'll just go Bonfil money line. What do you got?
I think you broke that down. Excellent, Bobby. Lusa quit on himself, and like you were saying, if anybody disagrees with that, I think you're crazy. The dude, he couldn't fight, and all of a sudden, now that his loss isn't going to count, now he just wants to fight everybody. Stop it. Stop it.
Right.
Get out of here. Bonfim, I do love the point that you brought up with his brother. I just think that your training partner is such a big deal. If you have somebody that can push you to that next level in training, endurance-wise, scrap-wise, I mean, if they're brothers, they're going at it. They're not just sitting there, oh, good job, man, good job. No, they're they're trying to get the best of the other one.
Right.
Gabriel Bonfim, 2 great takedowns, good movement. He's got that sub aspect to him. A whole bunch of money is on Bonfim right now. 93% of the bets, 91% of the money. You were saying that's a terrible money line. It's just what it is. And I think you were saying it right too. We love taking props when it's a line like this, but with this fight in particular, I just don't feel good about taking any of them. Like you said, I feel like it's not going to be knockout, but I could see it being a sub. But I could also see, which I think somebody brought this up in a different video I was watching, but Lusa coming off of that fight, he's probably going to be coming into this one like a little amped up, like a little ready to go, get back. He got a lot of shit on social media. I think you and me might have posted a little bit about that, but he deserved it. Lusa, he's going to come in, and he doesn't want to look bad twice in a row, so he's going to come in trying to win. I just don't think he can against Bonfim, so maybe he's able to bring this to a decision. So I agree with you. I think with this one, you're either going to bet the money line with Bonfim, or you just need to stay away, because this line, I feel like it's going to be a lose-lose situation. You're really just throwing a dart throw. And you don't want to do that. Either guys are knockout artists or they're sub artists, and you don't think this fight's going the distance. With a fight like this, just stay away. Either take the money line and just know you're not going to get a good payout, or avoid it and don't place a bet at all.
Exactly.
This next fight is probably the one I'm actually most excited for on this card. That's Drew Dober versus Gene Silva. And this is going to be my Nuck If You Buck fight of the night. Gene Silva, yes, we did just talk about Gene Silva last episode. He's back. He's moving up a weight class. All of that really concerns me. He blitzes forward, which is good. I like guys that attack forward. I don't like the moving backwards. He's got all aspects to his game. Knockout artist, but he can also, from standing, take you down straight into a submission attempt. That's probably one of the best I've seen of guys that can transition that smooth. Gene Silva is just really, really impressed with what I saw. 66% of the bets, 78% of the money right now on Gene Silva, which really surprised me. Drew Dober, always been a tough guy to finish. He's got that knockout power. He does have a sub aspect, but I feel like Drew Dober is more of a striker. He mostly wants to stand. With Silva going up, after just fighting, I have a bad feeling about it. And with all this money pouring in on Silva, and it's rightfully so, because Silva just looked excellent. And I was just saying how much I like Silva. I do really like Silva. I just feel like this is a really bad situation for him. Coming in off of a high, everybody's throwing their money on him, and I think Vegas is just absolutely loving it right now. And I just think Drew Dober, the grizzled vet, is just going to be too tough. I don't know if he's going to get the knockout. I don't see a sub, but I think it's either a knockout or a decision right now, -110. So it can go either way. I'm going to take Drew Dober money line at this point. When they're this close, don't try to go for any of the props. -110. Over under too. I couldn't tell you either way. I like Drew Dober, but it's a coin flip. What do you think, Bobby?
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with this. I actually did not know that he was moving up. That actually gives me more confidence
Oh,
because even though he just fought, 9 days ago, I think it'd be by the time
something
Saturday
like
rolls
that.
around, something like that. It actually makes me feel better because he's not cutting that much weight yet again, like damn near doing 2 cuts in 9 days. That actually helps me feel a lot better about his chin. He didn't take any damage in that Jourdain fight. He quickly wrapped it up. I believe it was in the very first round. Maybe it even made it to the second. Let me double check that. But very little damage no matter what. And he basically got the knockout off a round two. Okay, so 1 minute, 22 seconds into round two. So, yeah, very little damage, not cutting weight. If anything, he's, probably just chilling at what he walks around at type thing. Maybe a little bit heavier. Maybe he walks around since he normally fights at 145, guys at 145. It just really depends. Like Aljo at fucking bantamweight, 135 was walking around at 170, I think he said at one point, like a huge motherfucker for the weight division. John Silva, just depends. I don't think he's quite that big, but he probably walks around, if I had to guess, probably 160. So if he's going to 155, that's only 5 pounds. He might not even have to cut. So that's actually great because that means he's not depleting himself of water. He's not, depriving his brain of that fluid to protect it from shots and things of that nature. So that's good. The only way it could potentially negatively impact him, as you mentioned, was Dober with the wrestling. Here's my counter to that. Dober hasn't used his wrestling since like his
Yeah,
early UFC days.
yeah.
And that leads me to another point. Drew Dober has actually been in the UFC a lot longer than people think. And even though I've covered Drew Dober and we've covered Drew Dober on this show multiple times now, it still surprises me every time to know that Drew Dober is 35 years old. Drew Dober is 27-13 for a
Yeah.
total of 41 fights. And he's coming off a unanimous decision loss to Hanato Moicano. Ricky Glenn, he won with a TKO before that. Matt Frivola TKO'd him. It's very concerning when Matt Frivola TKOs anybody. I am not a Matt Frivola guy. I'm not trying to do MMA math, but what I'm getting at with this is Drew Dober has a lot of miles. Drew Dober has been in the UFC since 2013. Drew Dober is one of those guys who is that aged out generation of the UFC right now. We're going to be seeing a lot of guys who've been around since 2013 start to slowly phase out of competition. Think about it. 2013, 2012, Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, Misha Tate, Holly Holm was at like her peak back then. Out of all those people I just named, how many are still fighting? How many are still fighting at a high level against high level competition?
Right.
I can name even more, but those are just the immediate huge stars from that era that stick out. Tony Ferguson was on an incredible win streak in the UFC lightweight division at this time. Cowboy Cerrone was a household name. Nate
Weidman.
Diaz was still around. I could go on and on and on. He's already been very spotty. He has about a 3-fight win streak is about what he'll get, and then he'll lose. And then now he's like 1 loss, 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win. Could this be his 1 win? Sure. I could easily see it being his 1 win. Here's the problem. His Terrence McKinney win, that was very intense and back and forth, and he got heavily rocked. Like what I'm getting at with this is his chin is starting to decline as can be expected with the passage of time and being in the UFC since 2013 and being in this many fights. He does still have a strong chin, but I think we started to see that crack last May with Matt Frivola. Matt Frivola, I don't give a shit what anybody says, is not a guy who's going to go out there and just take your lights out. Like, yeah, he did it to Atman Zaitar and Drew Dober, but other than that, Jalen Turner, unanimous decision. Luis Pena, split decision, lost by KO. Like he actually does not have that many KO TKO wins. He only has 3 in his whole UFC career. One against a guy that doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, who's been long gone from the UFC, Genaro Valdez. One against Atman Azartar, a huge fraud. Drew Dober, which is concerning, and that's it. So I think that's kind of the first indicator of distress in Drew Dober's career right now. Another thing, a lot of his finishes, like his recent finishes, I was watching Ricky Glenn, Bobby Green, Rafael Alves, and Terrence McKinney. All those finishes came from pressuring them up against the cage. Literally, the fight ending sequence, he had them right up against the cage. So that speaks to his ability to be able to pressure people up against the cage. But if he can't, his odds of getting that knockout drastically go down because his game plan heavily relies on people wilting under that pressure and getting stuck up against the cage. And I just think John Silva is going to be a little bit too smart for that. And the grappling's definitely the X factor in this. If he does decide to go back to his early 2013, 2014 roots and start to grapple. But look what happened when Charles Jourdain in his very last fight 9 days ago tried to grapple. That uppercut to the temple finish that John Silva got was a result of a classic mistake fighters make with the grappling. Whether that's offensive grappling, defensive grappling, it needs to be capitalized on more because you'll see countless fighters of various skill levels, high, medium, low, experience levels, etc., committing it. And that's any type of disengagement with the grappling, the hands are dropped. The hands are dropped, protection goes out the window, and that's how John Silva got the uppercut on Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain had a single leg. He couldn't get the single leg. Silva was defending it very well up against the cage. He broke off the single leg, had his hands dropped to his hips. Boom. Silva, perfect timing, perfect placement, knocked him out. Drew Dober has to be careful. Drew Dober makes those same mistakes as a lot of other fighters and drops his hands after failed clinch and grappling exchanges. If he does that against Silva, it's lights out. Charles Jourdain, I don't think he gets knocked out that much. That's why it was so crazy to me that he was able to get knocked out against John Silva because he was trying to take, that safe approach that he always does in fights and just, point fight and pitter patter and everything. And yeah, that was his first KO loss in the UFC. He's only ever been finished one other time by Julian Erosa, coincidentally enough, who we just talked about. All his other losses, even going to the regional scene, have been by decision. So it's very impressive. Silva was able to finish a guy who in a long career, 15 wins and 8 losses, has only been finished one other time. I just think at minus 118 for John Silva, minus 102 for Drew Dober, that's too good to pass up. If anything, Silva or Dober, either one, should be a much heavier favorite. So when they're this close together and I can get Silva by KO TKO at a plus 185, I'm going to take it. What about if I combined it with a plus 700 sub? What do you think that would be?
You can get the double method, the KO and sub for plus 140.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and take that. I don't think he'll get the sub because we still have not really seen Silva's ground game and grappling tested that much in the UFC, especially when he's on the offensive. We mainly get peaks of it when he's defensive, like defending against Jourdain. But I'll take it because I think if it goes by decision, there's certainly a path there against Dober, like we saw Brad Riddell do it. So that's kind of the blueprint that Silva would have to take and just kind of pitter-patter, avoid the engagements and the wide hooks and all that. Drew Dober, when he's going to lunge in, he's going to pressure you, he's going to try to get you caught up in a dogfight. I think Silva's smart enough to realize that's the game plan. Maybe I could even see him ducking under some of those wild hooks. The left hook, the right hook is how he knocked out what's his nuts. Drew Dober did. Glenn, I think. He's knocked out a lot of people with it, but I could easily see what I'm getting at is Silva ducking under one of those, maybe doing his own offensive takedowns, single leg, double leg, whatever. That might be our first preview of his offensive grappling potentially. If I'm trying to play Nostradamus here and everything, that might be our first taste of it. So I could see decision, and it's a nice little plus 600, but I'll just take that double method because his best chance, I really do think, is KO TKO. And I really am, in my gut and in my plums, pretty convinced I think we're going to start to see here very rapidly Drew Dober start to decline, and that chin's going to finally start to be cracked because it's starting to be cracked in his last few fights. And even though he's won, like I said, the Terrence McKinney one's the main one I point out to. That was a very close fight, and with a more skittish ref, could have easily ended the opposite way with a McKinney stoppage had it been any other ref who was a little bit more squeamish and ready to jump in and not whoever the hell it was. I can't even remember. I just think that's going to be his best avenue. And like I said, and I keep saying it, moving up's a concern for that power to translate, but that guy just has dynamite, especially for a lower weight class. Will it translate to an upper weight class? I'm going to hope and pray and say it does, because he's not being depleted by cutting weight and everything. It shouldn't even be much of a cut, more than likely, for him. He's probably just cutting out junk food or whatever, maybe upping his cardio, whatever. So yeah, I'm going to go with John Silva. I'm going to go that double method. So
I like it, man. I like it. You know, we haven't had any shortage of winning bets, but we have had a shortage of something. We haven't had any Dagestani daddies in a while. So, Bobby, why don't you take the next one, man?
Yeah, we got Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Muslim Salikhov. This is unfortunately just a battle of like washed up prospects in the welterweight division right now. Both of these guys were highly touted. When they first made it into the UFC, is the next big things. Obviously, Salikhov is a Dagestani guy, famously trained at the same little boarding school as Zabit Magomed Sharipov. The corner of the Five Winds or whatever little Kung Fu Sanda Wushu school they were both at together, which is obviously why his striking style is very similar to Zabit's, with the flashy kicks. Those like traditional Chinese martial arts style kicks they likes to throw. Not much boxing, but it's serviceable when it is there. It's just primarily all different types of kicks, low kicks, body kicks, high kicks, wheel kicks, etc. That's what he primarily specializes in. Does have serviceable grappling, obviously, as a Dagestani, just not to the extent of Zabit. Ponzinibbio was really just kind of like the next like welterweight KO artist people were kind of hoping would hit. Very inactive throughout his career, had a lot of setbacks related to medical issues, frequent staph infections, things of that nature kept Ponzinibbio out of action. Could be argued maybe that's why his career hasn't really went well. But I mean, he's 37, Salikhov's 40. These guys both have a lot of miles. Once again, you could fight at these ages if you didn't have so many miles. Like, there are genetic freaks. There are, your John Jones, your Yoel Romeros, et cetera, your Randy Coutures of the world. But these guys, I don't believe, are that. Ponzinibbio's coming off a vicious KO loss to Kevin Holland last April. Beat Alex Morano before that, lost to Michel Pereira, lost to Jeff Neal, so he's 1-3 in his last 4. Muslim Salikhov's not doing much better, but I'm going to look up his record, and what I'm getting at is this is a very tough fight. This is easily probably my most difficult fight, probably on the whole entire card to actually predict. Lost to Randy Brown, Salikhov did, KO'd, so both coming off vicious KO losses. Salikhov's is more recent, though, February of this year, so Ponzinibbio's had a little bit more time to recover. Lost to Dalby by unanimous decision, beat Filau, lost to Li Jingling by TKO, so 1-3 in his last 4 as well. So similar, both of these guys. So Ponzinibbio minus 185, Salikhov plus 154. I'm just going to play it safe because I don't know how else to take it with this, with both guys being so close, so similar, both coming off vicious losses, especially Salikhov's being much more recent. I feel like he's coming back a little bit too fast. Ponzinibbio at least gave himself a little bit over a year to recover from that. Hopefully also in that time frame, maybe he's worked on some skills. He's leveled himself up. He's figured some things out. 37 with the mileage he has and all the injuries and illnesses and everything might be a little too late in the welterweight division to kind of have a resurgence, but at least he can, fight out the remainder of his contract, maybe get another extension and kind of like try to make a run or at least a shot at top 15, top 10. I'll give the advantage to him based off his prior resume, what he's been able to achieve before knocking out Neil Magny in 2018, beating Mike Perry, a tough guy to beat, Gunnar Nelson KO, Nordine Taleb, Zach Cummings, Court McGee, a lot of guys. He's been in the UFC for a deceptively long time, just like Drew Dober, both since 2013. Like I said, inactivity just robbed Ponzinibbio of a lot of prime time to compete and everything, because 2018 was when his career went downhill after the Magny thing, and he had a very long layoff. All of 2019 off, all of 2020 off, didn't fight again until 2021 when he lost to Lee, beat Miguel Beza. And so his last 6 fights since his heavy period of inactivity started after 2018, Last 6 fights, he is 2-4, excuse me. 2 wins, 4 losses. So it's tough. But I'm just going to lean Ponzinibbio. I think Vegas has it right. Minus 185 with Salikhov is a pretty decent favorite. I could see why the power that Ponzinibbio has when he is able to bring it, when he is on it. He is very powerful. He is a decent striker. I don't think grappling is going to play a role in this, even though Salikhov would be considered the better grappler. He never really, to my knowledge, uses that offensive grappling. It's mainly like a threat to kind of get you thinking about it, and he sets up everything else with the strikes, or he uses it more defensively. So I think it's going to be a striking match, and I'm just going to stay with Ponzinibbio. I'm just going to take the money line. What do you think?
I think when you pop a water balloon in slow motion and the rubber goes away real fast, but then you still see the shape of the water. Have you seen that before?
Yeah.
I swear to God, that's what Randy Brown did to Muslim Salikhov. Like, he hit that man and his soul was still there. Like, his soul was still standing, but his body just went onto the canvas. He was out, man. I was on Salikhov. I thought that he was going to be I thought I was really sharp, and I really read that one out right. And I think you took Randy Brown in that one, and you were absolutely right. I did not see the same Salikhov that I thought that he was. His, trademark kicks, they're not landing, and they're not as fast as they used to be. He's really slowed down. Santiago, he's got the low hand, so he's got the chance of getting knocked out, but he's younger, he's lighter on his feet. I think he's got the better gas tank than Salikhov. He could eat some big shots too. When I was watching his tape, some of the hits he was taking, and not even being phased, shocked me, because that guy was eating some big hits. He's tough. He's a little hesitant for me. I wish he wouldn't look for those windows and pull his punches so much. Sometimes I wish you'd just throw, and you just got to start racking up volume too. It accumulates over the fight. But I'm with you too. Ponzinibbio, I think, is probably one of my favorite picks. I like it. This one, I feel like I was pretty confident in. So I hope that you and me are right.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right, the last one, we got Rose Namajunas versus Tracy Cortez. And boy, did we have quite the little episode when we had Rose Namajunas versus Manon Fio, or how Fio Rot. If you guys remember any of that, we had a whole conspiracy theory about how Rose Namajunas was going to win. She was going to finish Manon. Turns out she's not going to finish her, and she's not even going to win that fight. So that was pretty upsetting. That whole card was just really annoying. But she still beat the division elite. She has still beat some of the best of the best. She's only 32. She's got that sub aspect. She's durable. She's got good inside trips. Right now, she's seeing 69% of the bets, 61% of the money at minus 218. I think I still like that side. Tracy Cortez, she has a lot of difficulty passing guard. I was surprised to see that. When we see people get somebody down and then they go to attack, you don't normally see them have that much trouble. I forget who she was fighting, but she could not reach her. It was shocking. You're a professional athlete. You're a professional MMA fighter. You can't get by her guard at all. It was really surprising. So I think if her and Rose ever get in that situation, I think there's a better chance of Rose submitting her than her ever getting back up. And if Rose goes to the ground, I think she would be smart not to engage. She is a cautious striker that looks for her window, so I don't think she's going to win by volume. I think Rose still might throw more than her. She wants to stand, so I think the only way that Tracy can win this fight is by keeping this a standing affair. And it's one of those things. There's levels to this, and I just don't think she's at that Rose level. Only a 2-year age difference. Rose has fought a lot of really good people, and I think Tracy's fought Aaron Blanchfield is the only name I recognized. So it's one of those fights. It's another really gross odds, but Rose, it's hard to say she's not one of the best female fighters currently. Even though I know she's on the downside of her career, I still think Rose is one of the most dangerous women in women's MMA. What do you think, Bobby?
Yeah, I'm not a big Rose fan at all. I have not liked Rose since what she did to Joanna Jędrzejczyk in the first fight, and I still thoroughly believe to this day Joanna was robbed in the second fight in one of the most egregious robberies of the sport. But that does not corrupt or taint my view in this fight at all, because I agree. I have Rose as well. And to kind of extrapolate on that, on some things that you said and build upon that and everything, you made some really good points. For example, with the grappling and Cortez not being able to pass guard, that was at first a concern of me that Cortez's grappling would be good, because that is traditionally somewhere that Namajunas has struggled, in that Namajunas, if she's able to play BJJ and able to play guard, is pretty damn good when it comes to her guard and her BJJ. It's just wrestlers that she struggles with. For example, Jessica Andrade infamously slammed her on her head while she was trying to defend the single or double leg takedown. Andrade just said, all right, you're going to defend my takedown. I'm just going to lift you up by a variation of the high crotch and just slam you on your neck, and the fight's going to be over. Yep. So I don't think Cortez has the strength for that. Jeez. She doesn't seem, even though she seems big, she seems like muscular in that regard. Like, she seems well built and everything. Like you said, she just really is surprisingly not able to kind of use that, I guess. No. Not able to muscle, not able to use that muscle advantage and that strength and power advantage to really succeed. I mean, Namajunas has choked out Angela Hill. She's choked out Paige Van Zant. She's choked out Michelle Watterson. So these aren't exactly fighters in the strawweight division known for great grappling. But nonetheless, it still finishes by rear naked choke against, great competition in the UFC and everything. Not so much Van Zant, but you know what I mean. Still impressive to get those sub finishes in the UFC against that caliber of competition. And it hasn't been something that she's used since 2017, but it's there. It's definitely there. The video of her doing the flying triangle on Pat Barry, there's plenty of videos of her grappling out there. I don't think, like you said, Cortez is going to be a good enough wrestler. She really struggled with Maria Agapova, who I believe is also fighting on this card in their Contender Series fight. And I watched that fight today for tape on Cortez, and Agapova is just not good. She's so bad. She is so terrible of a fighter, and Cortez really struggled with the position she was getting her in. It's like I said with the whole Nick and Nate Diaz quote. If you find yourself in such advantageous positions like that and you're unable to take advantage, you really need to reconsider your grappling approach. Because when you are in side mount, when you're in side control, when you're in full mount, when you have the back take, when you have a gift wrap, when you have all these different huge advantageous positions and you can barely do any damage or barely get a sub or whatever with it, ask yourself, is my opponent's defense that good or is my offense that bad? And I think for Tracy Cortez, especially against Agapova, I just think Tracy Cortez's offense is that bad rather than Agapova's defense being that good. So I don't think if grappling's a factor, as long as Namajunas is kind of in the open mat area and she's able to play guard, she's able to work from guard and do some triangles, that type of thing, or maybe even get the back take herself, it's going to favor Namajunas. Striking 100%, 100% Namajunas. I don't even have to go on about her striking. If you've been a fan of Namajunas or just, watched her fights, watched strawweight in the past 5, 6, 7, whatever years, Namajunas very good. Fundamental striking, leg kicks, high kicks, good punches, crisp combinations, good boxing, great footwork, great movement, elusiveness, all of that, which brings me to my other point. If you're going to try to challenge her in striking, you cannot win by point fighting, because she cheated Joanna Jędrzejczyk in a point fight fest and, won. The only person she didn't out point fight was Manon Fiorot, and even though it was just September last year, other than being wrong, I don't remember how that fight played out. It's been a while. I only watched it live that one time. Exactly. So she's only challenged by strikers who have power, and I don't think Cortez has power. That's mainly her kryptonite, is if you have any type of punching power or grappling power and you're just really strong like Andrade, you're going to be a good recipe to give Namajunas some difficulty. And I just don't think that's Tracy Cortez. You would think, being Brian Ortega's ex, she would learn some more with the grappling, be able to be a little bit more dominant with it. I don't know, learn some better striking. It's just she doesn't have power. in any of those characteristics, and it's just not really giving me much hope that she's going to be able to do this. And I'm curious what like the money side is looking like and where the public's money is going on this fight, because all I keep hearing is people on social media riding heavy with Cortez. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything. It's just my 100% honest opinion. I think they're picking Cortez because she's the finger quotes more attractive option, because all I'm seeing is just ridiculousness. Like Rose's heart isn't in it anymore. She's gardening. She's been gardening for years. If you listen to Rose Namajunas interviews, once again, I'm a guy who hates her. I don't follow her, but I hear these things in passing as an MMA content consumer and somebody who's a fan and passionate of the sport. She's been gardening for years. That's one of her main hobbies. I'm not worried that she's posting gardening videos instead of training videos. You're putting too much stock into it. They posted a picture of her from 5 years ago with a picture from her most recent fight right next to it, trying to say she looks like she's less muscular. She's not taking her training serious. It literally is the exact same picture. Maybe the only thing making them think that is like lighting, shadows, whatever, like the natural passage of time. I don't see it. I see the same Rose Namajunas. The only thing that worries me is I don't think 125 flyweight is her natural division. I don't know why she's still sticking around there. Maybe she just got tired of cutting the weight. Maybe her body cannot handle the weight cut anymore. But 115 straw weight is where she's meant to be. She has 2 wins over Zhang Weili, who isn't she still the current champion, I believe? Yeah, 2 wins over Zhang Weili. I know she lost to Esparza, and that left a lot of people very dissatisfied with a bad taste in their mouth. But I think she should really go back to 115, because the only thing that concerns me is 125 is just not where she belongs. I feel like she's undersized for the division. We saw that with Fierro, and that's why she lost. And she's just kind of going to get bullied by some of these bigger women when they have the opportunity to take advantage of her. Like her only other UFC win at 125 was against Hebos, March of this year. Was her most recent fight. Hebos is another fighter. Why are you at 125? You were great at strawweight. Strawweight's where you belong. So that's why she got the win over Hebos, because Hebos is another strawweight who, for whatever reason, is done cutting. So I just really think she needs to go back to 115, but I don't think being at 125 is enough of a disadvantage, because I just don't think Cortez is going to be able to press that advantage. Once again, for how strong she looks and how in shape and all that, it doesn't really translate. And Namajunas is a good scrambler. She's very elusive. And like I said, that footwork prevents her from being taken down unless she's backed up against the cage. But the only person that can do that is a person with strikes that make her fearful. And that's just, once again, not Tracy Cortez. So, yeah.
I agree, man. I agree. 2 things. I think that we're getting this line at minus 200s or like low 200s. I think that's a gift because she lost to Manon. I think that this would be a lot bigger gap, because I think that there's a big skill disadvantage between these two. I think Rose is just a lot better. So I think we're getting Rose off a loss that's helping us with this line. And then everybody likes to post that type of crap on Twitter. And then when you look at the actual money that's going on behind the scenes, 69% of bets are on Rose and 61% of money. So she's still getting majority over there.
Yeah, that's hilarious, because like I said, you would think from social media that everybody's just heavy on Cortez. That's all I see is all this ridiculousness. And it's like, put your money where your mouth is. I don't see it.
Right. Absolutely agree. Bobby, what do you think for the Haymaker this week?
Haymaker's going to be tough on a card like this. Let's see. Really, the only good odds you're getting are going to be on that Silva fight or that Brundage fight, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are really the only 2 fights that you're going to have good odds on. I'd rather go with Silva. I'm rolling with Silva because, like I said, Brundage, I could easily see being a dumbass like he usually is in most of his other fights, not setting up a takedown, getting flatlined, giving into the pressure, etc. Just not inspiring. So I'm rolling with John Silva, and I'm rolling with that. I'll hedge my bets here and make the haymaker him by decision at plus 600. Since I already took KO,
Okay.
since I already took KO TKO and the sub at plus 145 is my official.
Oh,
This is where I play it smart and cover all my bases and go all in on them and say the haymaker is if he gets decision at plus 600.
okay. I like it, man. I like it, Bobby. You got anything else before we get out of here?
No, just follow along on Twitter. More MMA content I'm making. I've been on a roll lately. Just call me Butter with some good MMA content.
Yes.
Getting into more fantasy football content. 2 articles I just wrote last week.
Yes. Great.
Make stomping the knee great again. A guide to oblique kicks. Check that out. Oblique kicks need to make a comeback. 3 fights to get you introduced to the UFC. Actually, today is the anniversary of UFC 189. And 2 of the fights that I wrote about on that 3 fights to get you introduced to the UFC were on that UFC 189 card. I wrote about Chad Mendes versus Conor McGregor, which took place in 2015 on this date. And I wrote about Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald, which took place in 2015 on this date. So this is the anniversary of that July 11th UFC 189 card. So check out those 2 articles, the guide to the oblique kick and the guide to 3 fights to get started in the UFC. If you're a newbie to the UFC, returning fan, maybe you missed it, took an extended break, that's for you. I'm going to keep adding to that. Like every week or so, or as often as I can when I have time, add 3 more fights to each list, kind of round it out, that type of thing. I'll be doing more technique guides, get some more fantasy football content dropping here soon to coincide with the release of the draft guide. So MMA and fantasy football / NFL is going to kind of be my fortes for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. You're doing it well, Bobby. You're really starting to grow a following over there on X, man. I'm proud of you. I love seeing your growth. Also, by the time you'll get this episode, but by the time the next episode comes out, the draft guide will be out, guys. You're running out of time to pre-order it. It comes out July 19th, and the 50% off is going to be gone. So if you want it for $10, get it now. Make that investment. It's going to help you win your fantasy leagues. If not, get it for $20 later. But I'm trying to let you guys know now. You guys got like 1 week left to get this guide. So go over to bettergreen.com. That's better, BETTOR green.com, and get it now. Also, while you're doing your fantasy football stuff, you need to get your draft board too, guys. Draft season is right around the corner, so you need to get your board, you need to get your stickers, and the best place to do that is draftkits.co. When you head over there, it's going to be some of the cheapest boards. I think the best boards out there. I love their stickers. Best stickers for sure out there. When you put in code BIG24, you're going to get 10% off. Already they're very low prices. So make sure you guys check them out. I believe it's only like $23, and that includes shipping. So don't play yourself. Don't shop around. Just go there. You can shop around. You'll end up coming back to Draft Kits. I'm just trying to save you guys time. So make sure you guys go check that out. And thank you guys for watching. We will see you on the next card. Peace, guys.
You better start listening to the Better in Green podcast. You will not regret it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And hey, I'm Dean Blandino.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? Listen in and cash out. That's what it's all about. Come on, let's make cash now. We always on spot and we cover old spot from the bottom to the top, hey. Shout out to Ethan, shout out to Wyatt, shout out to Ben. Welcome, welcome to our podcast, Better in Green.